just been recording the whole time.
Yeah, that's hopefully the idea. Did we ruin it? We ruined it.
Probably.
Welcome to the Extra Mile. This is G5. This is Justin.
That's me.
And that is Caleb in Caleb's Corner.
Caleb's Corner.
Hey.
Caleb's Corner. And yeah, we're not going to roast
You
it
don't
this
have the
time.
light
I don't
on
have
behind
any
you.
roasts on my...
Turn the light on behind
Oh,
you.
yeah, you're pretty dark over there.
There's no video on me right now.
Oh.
Why not?
If you heard that voice, that's Caleb.
That voice from above.
Oh, man. Well, this is, like always, a conversational podcast. It's meant to be an easy listen for Christians and an engaging listen for those thinking about Jesus. And what we're going to talk about today is we're going to talk about, we have a men's conference, and we're talking about, men, godly men, with an emphasis on, of course, like generational, men and communication and things like that through the scriptures. And so we have a special guest. His name is Noah, and I can't pronounce your last name.
That's all right. A lot of people can't.
Yeah.
Are you?
Yeah, go for it.
So it's Diestelkamp. It's a lot
Diestelkamp.
simpler than it looks. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
It's like the fuel, the engine. It's not spelled that
Diestelkamp.
way, but that's how it's pronounced.
Go to Diestelkamp. Okay, cool. We have Noah Diestelkamp, and he's one of the speakers here at the men's conference, and so we're happy to have him on. And
Glad to be here.
This will be good. Yeah. No. happy to have
Welcome,
you.
Noah.
Thank you.
Oh man. So you said you're from Indiana.
No, I didn't. I said I'm from Illinois. But a lot of people get those mixed up.
Yeah.
Pretty much everybody. In fact, Tim, the other speaker that's here this weekend, I've known him now for like 5 years. And I'm pretty sure every time that we talk, he's like, now, you grew up in Indiana, right? No, I grew up in Illinois.
Illinois.
And the thing is, in Texas, all the I states, Iowa, Illinois, Indiana,
It's all one.
Idaho. It's in a completely different part of the U.S., but it might as well be.
It might as well be over there.
One of those.
Yeah.
So, Noah, you're from Idaho?
How do you feel about potatoes?
I love potatoes.
Then you would love my state. No, maybe a more real question from where I'm. How do you feel about either A, corn, or B, soybeans?
Oh, there you go. There you go.
If you like those, then you'll like where I grew up.
There you go. So in the country part of Illinois?
It was a
Illinois?
small. Yeah, I mean, basically anywhere other than Chicago is
Right.
is
It's
relatively
pretty
rural.
Okay.
And where I grew up was 100 miles outside of Chicago, so it was a little town of
Oh, okay.
10, 12,000.
Okay. Well, that's great. Yeah. I went to Chicago for the first time was it last year? Yeah. It was last year or maybe earlier this year, but it was a lot of fun. It was
Beautiful
one of my
city.
faves. Yeah, it
Yeah.
is. It is. It's like a big city, but it's not as big as New York. It's like small in some ways.
Yeah.
It's like a small, big city.
It used to be the third largest city in the U.S. It was still, I think, at the time of the 2020 census, but it was like literally under 100,000 between it and Houston.
Really?
Yeah. So
Oh,
by
wow.
now, I'm sure Houston's bigger.
Yeah, I bet so. I bet so. That's good. That's good. Well, talk about men. And when we were on the phone, I liked what you had said about just the generational impact that maybe the older generation had on you, communicating to them, talking about communication, and letting them drop wisdom on you and talk to you like you're a normal human, like you're an adult. you know?
Right.
And which isn't always our default. And so I think that's important. And I kind of want to let you lead the conversation on that. And how did that make an impact on you to start with?
Oh, man. It's hard to measure that kind of an impact. I mean, I was blessed with, I have great parents who raised me to believe in God, and they're Christians, and I feel very open in my communication with them and my relationship with them. And so I know that I have a blessing in that way that a lot of people don't necessarily have. But even with that, the value that I found in, so for instance, growing up, around age 12, I think it was, I started going to this annual men's weekend. That was, I mean, like 12 was the youngest you could get in. And so there are these men who are 10, 15, 20 years older than me, 30 years older than me, 40 years older than me, that I'm getting to spend a weekend. I mean, it probably not unlike what we're going to do this weekend. We get to spend time in the Word. We spent time singing and worshiping, but also then like we'd break for lunch and I'd sit across the table from these guys that are my dad's age, and they would just ask me about what I'm thinking about and the things that I care about. And then I could ask them questions, and they didn't shut me down. They said, okay, let's talk about that, you know? And these were men that I had grown to respect already. And then that just increased my respect for them and the rapport that we had. And to me, that was really character shaping.
Sure.
Because especially now that I'm, now I'm on this side of things, I'm certainly not the age that they were. They would have been at the time, they would have been in their late 40s, and I'm not there. But now I'm on the other side of things. I'm married. I have kids.
Yeah.
And I'm looking at these like young newlyweds or these college age guys or these high school age guys, and I'm like, I want them to understand that like they can talk to me, and I'll be straight with them.
Mm-hmm.
I'll listen. I'll entertain the questions that they have, because I think that's valuable. And quite frankly, I still feel like I'm on that side of the equation. So then I'm around people like Tim, who's here, this weekend, or somebody else who's 20, 30, 40 years older than me. And I'm in the same seat as them. I'm going, please, like, lay it on me.
Exactly.
I want to hear what you have to say. So crossing those generational boundaries, I just think is valuable, because too often we buy into the cultural idea.
Right.
That there's this distinct separation.
Well, we're so divided as a culture right now by generation.
Mm-hmm.
And it's in our memes. Oh, boomer,
Right.
A millennial. Like, we even had an episode on that. Gen
Right.
Zs, Gen Alphas, all of it. You know?
Yeah. And I understand that to some extent we have to, for like sociologically,
acknowledge them.
We have to acknowledge that there are differences, right? Like before I was preaching full time, I worked in the food service environment, and so I worked with a lot of like high schoolers, because at one point I was put in charge of kind of fixing the night shift at the restaurant that I was at. So at that point, I'm working at night, which is when you get all of the like very young people, the 15, 16, 17-year-olds working after school and that kind of thing. And yeah, in my early 20s, it was clear already, like there's a difference here in personality. There's a difference in humor. There's a difference in pop culture references. Like, there's no doubt sociologically that there are things that make us different. But to latch on to what makes us different instead of onto what makes us the same, that's a recipe for division, and that's a recipe for disaster, in my opinion. But
That's a good point. I'm thinking of like older, younger duos in the scriptures. I mean, Moses and Joshua, and
Paul and
Timothy. Yeah, exactly.
That's the low hanging fruit.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. And the impacts they had on each other.
Yeah.
God and Moses.
Yeah, by just a few.
I mean,
a millennium.
we'll edit that out.
I wasn't expecting that to come into the equation, but I mean, you're not wrong.
Thank you. Technically, that's right.
Yeah, the
list just expanded greatly.
Yeah, Abraham,
God and Abraham, God and Moses, God and Noah. Let's keep going.
God and almost everyone.
I think we're onto something. We could write a book about this.
Yeah.
I'm sorry I derailed the conversation.
No, that's awesome. That's awesome.
But yeah, I think looking to scriptural examples makes a whole lot of sense, because Paul talks about that in his relationship with Timothy, but he also talks about it in general. He talks about it as something that should be happening. Titus 2, if Titus 2 makes like one thing clear, if Titus 2 makes one thing clear, it's that the grace we've received should be training us. But if it makes a second thing clear, it's that there should be this intergenerational development that's going on, where the older are teaching the younger, are mentoring the younger.
Sure.
And sometimes we push against that. We kick against that. And as somebody that still, I would consider myself in the younger age bracket, that's what I wish other younger people would accept, is not that the older people are always right, because they're not, but that they bring a value we just can't. Not yet.
Yeah.
And so it doesn't mean we have to agree with them about everything. It doesn't mean that we have to take everything they say as gospel, but we should recognize that when they speak to us, when they mentor us, when they help train us, they are fulfilling a pattern that the apostles laid out. And we should accept that as a good thing.
That's interesting. That's interesting. I think sometimes we want to fight against that because we're like, well, I want to do things like my way, which is obviously the right way, and which obviously the newer way. It's obviously the way people really want to do now, or go. Yeah.
When you look at the Proverbs, it says, it's written as an instructional booklet from one generation to another, from a mother to a son. There is a fascinating balance that can be struck whenever you, as a younger person, find yourself to be teachable to not only someone who's older, which is the subject of what we're talking about, but even someone younger. Like I think we're all dads. So I'll propose a question to you is, have you ever learned something from your child?
Oh, yeah. I think I referred to it on the phone the other day when I was talking to George, that it has been like the most humbling experience of my life to be a dad. And part of that is because I see my own inadequacy as I'm trying to raise these souls. But part of it is because sometimes I'll look at them and I'll go, oh man, like they've got this down, and I'm 30 and I don't have it down.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah, certainly.
They've got that joy, that spark, that love. That's just like, man, wish I could have that. There's like, I don't know, ignorant bliss is like the best way to go about it. But in some ways, there's that veil, the innocence.
I'm glad that your experience that you were talking about is a positive memory for you, because that is how it should be. And I would even surmise that how destructive it would have been if they had dismissed you.
Right.
And I know that that's happened to me at times, not necessarily in that context, but when an older generation sort of dismisses you in your opinion, your well-being, or, you're not worth our time kind of right now. Right. And in all fairness and transparency, I've done that to my son a couple times. Like, no, these are my friends. We don't want to hear your playing of your instrument right now. Like, like we're in the middle of whatever we're doing. But in the context, whenever you've come together to connect to another generation, that could be so invaluable. I mean, as either a core memory of happiness and something you can always refer to, or a core memory of destruction, and it could be really damaging. So that's a warning to us, I think, is whenever we're engaging in those moments.
Yeah, those moments are opportunities. And if we miss the opportunity, it's not like we have to then carry that like a burden of guilt for the rest of our lives. Oh, no, we blew that opportunity. No, we missed an opportunity, and hopefully the next time we'll do better. But I do think that there is a warning that if that happens enough times to the same person, it's going to be discouraging. I mean, just like I mentioned earlier, I'm blessed with parents that raised me to know God and to know Jesus. And even now in adulthood, they're the ones that I look to first for advice and counsel. I recognize not everyone has that blessing. Well, similarly, I know that the interactions I had with older Christians growing up is not the interaction that everybody has had. I've talked to people my age, 10 years older than me, 10 years younger than me, and heard the same story. And that is that they feel like the older generation doesn't listen. They feel like the older generation shuts them down. They feel like the older generation is stuck in their ways. Now, I think some of that is perception. Sometimes I think that's because the younger generation isn't asking good questions, isn't asking sincere questions. I think sometimes we get caught up in angling for, I think you referenced this earlier, angling for what we want to do anyway, as opposed to genuinely seeking counsel and advice. And when we do that, we shouldn't be surprised if we get a kind of negative reaction. But I also recognize that there have been genuine circumstances where people with genuine hearts who are seeking wisdom from older generations, they ask a sincere question and they just get absolutely stomped on. I can't believe you'd ask that. I can't believe you have that question. You shouldn't have that doubt at this point in your life. That's going to cause hurt.
Yeah.
Right. So I think it's one of those situations where there's work to be done on both sides of the equation there. And that's part of why I think, because I have had such a positive experience and I'm trying to create that positive experience for other people, I try to take the role of knitting together, of mediating. Like, I really don't think that there's as much of a division, or maybe the way that you could put it is, I don't think there needs to be this much of a division between this person and this person, or this age group and this age group. I think that there's a lot of positive things that could happen if we would just sit down and this group over here would settle down for a minute and listen, and this group over here would settle down for a minute and listen.
Just be a little quick to listen.
Yeah. That almost feels like a biblical thing.
Almost, yeah. Let your reasonableness be known. No, that's really good. But at the same time, I can't help but look in churches and see a divide where, when has the older generation, or vice versa, younger generation, reached out to each other?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll share an anecdote here. I was with some young people, and when I say young people, I mean like high school, right? So,
okay,
I consider myself a young person still, but we're talking the next
younger
generation, right?
Yeah.
And I was talking with them, and they were expressing that they felt like there wasn't anything for them to do in the local church. There wasn't an opportunity for them to really get involved and really serve.
Oh, interesting.
And I admit, I had to remind myself, hey, stop and listen for a minute, because my immediate reaction, as someone that's intimately involved with, the local church, it's like, are you kidding me? There's so many opportunities to serve. There's so much going on. But that's the perspective of inexperience, right?
Sure.
And so I encouraged them, look around, identify the people that are already serving. I was like, you can already, if I asked you right now to name 3 people that worship with us that are actively involved in serving the congregation in some way, you all would have no trouble with that. Go talk to them and say, hey, I want to do what you're doing. Can I come along? Can you show me how? And I think that's, excuse me, I think that's the right encouragement. I hope that that's the right encouragement, because it's the one that I gave.
Yeah.
But I will say that on the flip side of that, I later had an opportunity to talk to the parents of some of these, the dads specifically, of some of these same kids. And I said, hey, this is the kind of heart that your kids are showing, which is a good thing. Congratulations. Like, I'm impressed because you guys are doing something right.
Yeah.
When my kids get to that age, I hope they're asking those kinds of questions. I said, but what that also means is we need to be reaching out to them. It shouldn't take them coming to us and saying, hey, show me how to do this, for us to be the Paul to the Timothy, or for us to be, again, the Titus 2, the older men training the younger men and the older women training the younger women. Who is the burden of action on there? Well, I think that it's on both sides, but I think it's pretty reasonable to say the older, more experienced, wiser Christian should be the one that takes action first.
Yeah, they should take the initiative.
Yeah.
That's well said. Well said. So how does this blend into, because I feel like this kind of goes well into what you're talking about when it comes to 1 Corinthians 12 and the church?
Well, I mean, I think 1 Corinthians 12 in a lot of ways, and Romans 12 and Ephesians 4, that we're going to be touching on all of those. 1 Corinthians 12 is kind of going to be my core root passage that I'm going to work from. But in a lot of ways, it's more general than what I'm talking about, or what we're talking about so far. Because really, it just pictures the church as a body, and each member as being a part of that body that serves a function, serves a role, has some part to play. And I think what we've talked about so far with age and differences in generation is really just one specific application of that, right? The older generations are going to have a role that the younger generations can't yet, right? But then again, the younger generations are going to fill in roles that have been left behind or abandoned or otherwise have not been filled for a while. They're going to bring energy, new energy to a part of the body that hasn't had that energy for a while, perhaps. So I think it's more of a specific application. The generational difference is a specific application of the picture of the body.
Yeah, I see.
And each person having a part, and each person having a purpose. So that's a lot of what we're going to talk about in my lessons tomorrow. Tim and I, when we were coordinating for this, we kind of decided, instead of us both trying to hit directly on Iron Sharpens Iron for the whole weekend in every little part of our lessons, we would take specific ways that iron sharpens iron. And what I mean by that is, or how a brother sharpens another. So you guys probably already know he's going to be taking an approach from Barnabas as kind of like a character study, as being a brother who makes your brothers better, which I think is a very apt description of Barnabas. I'm going to be coming from the approach of, if we're all a body, then how are we supporting each other as the body? If everyone has a role and everyone is connected, what does a healthy body look like? And how do we play our role, our function in that? And that's going to have application generationally. It's going to have application across the sexes, which is not going to be the main application this weekend because it's a men's conference. But that would be, I think a very valid application to make. And it's going to have application across skill sets and interests. I mean, there's a reason that we're sitting in this room. There's a reason that Caleb's over there, right? Because he brings a skill and a passion to something here that other people don't. And so he's here to fulfill to fulfill a role here. And you guys are sitting in this seat because you bring something to this, whether it's a passion or a skill. You're helping the body in this way.
It's true for Justin.
What's that?
It's true for Justin, yes.
Stop it.
It's not true for you. Okay, well, the door's over there, George. I'll talk to Justin. It's fine. So I don't know if that quite answers your question, but that's where I see some of that connection coming. And I think a common thread, and this is something that I hope to touch on with the guys this weekend, and my understanding is on Sunday I'm going to get to do a class with the teens, I think is what I heard. It's either teens or college age. Either way, good with me. But something I want them to also understand at their age, because I think it'll prime them as they get into their college and 20s, is that functioning as a body does not mean being comfortable. And I think sometimes we assume it's going to be comfortable, and it's not. I'm not comfortable right now. So, I mean,
sorry.
It's all right. No, it's not you at all. You're not making me uncomfortable. You're not either, Justin.
Good, I'm glad.
This corner of the room over here.
Notice he didn't say anything about Caleb.
But all I'm trying to say is, Sorry, I almost threw another dig at Caleb. This is the problem with being the one person in the room that I've actually known for a number of years. You get thrown under the bus over and over again.
What comes around goes around.
Oh boy.
Go for it.
Oh boy. He's editing this, isn't he?
He is, yes.
Don't do like a cough compilation or something like that. or coffee sip compilation. That's awesome. Anyway, so
we just underscore delicious.
That's right. Not a sponsor. So what was I? I totally got derailed there. I derailed myself. What I was saying is just that I think a big thing that holds us back intergenerationally, getting back to that, is it's uncomfortable. I mean, we are, generally speaking, most comfortable around our peers.
Yeah, it's true.
And again, when you're in a situation where people you're not comfortable around, make the effort to make you comfortable, to listen to you, to engage with you, like you said at the beginning, just like a normal human being.
Yeah.
Forget the differences in age or background or whatever else you want to stick in there, and just talk and listen. When someone does that, that means a world of difference to you.
Yeah.
Well, the fact is, that was probably pretty hard for them. Some people are really good at that. I'm not. If I'm crossing some sociological barrier out, I am going outside my comfort zone.
Sure.
But I think that's part of what we're called to as the body of Christ, is to play our role, to support the body, and to recognize that in being part of the body and all being connected, but being different, because we're inherently different. We're serving different roles. We're filling different parts of the body. Recognize that in the course of that, you're going to be uncomfortable, and that's okay.
Yeah, no, it is okay. Most of us probably need to be more uncomfortable more often.
Yeah. I will say, because I'm just a little bit older than y'all, that it is interesting generationally, even passing time, to be able to go through everyday life and encounter people who start calling you sir.
Oh, yeah.
To encounter people who sort of look at you like a dad figure, and then even sort of having those checks in the mirror like, hairline receding, gray coming, things starting to hurt that you don't normally have feeling hurt. And what I've at least discovered on that particular front, and when you were talking about it's uncomfortable, is I would much rather be I worked out and I'm sore pain than I haven't worked out and I'm sore pain.
Yeah.
And that's just coming from like, I'm about to hit 40. And so it's just, you know what? I feel better whenever I'm the one who made me sore, rather than just being old and
right.
When nature made
Right.
you
and
sore.
nature, I guess. So I feel better after I've worked out, but maybe we need to work out our bones as well, like socially, where we say, yeah. And that's a ringing truth for me, is I'm much more comfortable just being to myself, and I don't talk to anybody, and I nod along with the preacher, and to be able to really reach out to a brother or sister and have a relationship. It's hard, and it takes work.
Right. And it doesn't mean you have to be best friends with everybody. Like, I think sometimes we have this misconception that we can't have our people. We can have our people, the people that we're most comfortable around, the people that we feel safe and we feel relaxed and at home with. That's great. Enjoy that. But don't let that keep you from getting outside that comfort zone. I love the image that you used just a moment ago, Justin, about you'd rather be sore from working out than sore from not working out.
Yeah.
Right? Think about that in the context of like a local church. Think of the local church as a body. Very scriptural image, right? Okay. So would you rather experience the soreness and the discomfort of really getting into each other's lives? I'm thinking of the body as a whole.
Yeah.
Would you rather experience that discomfort now, or in 20 years look back and see the decline of that local church as people just clumped up and separated and went their different ways and didn't get involved in one another's life at all?
Happens all the time.
I'd rather face the discomfort now and be a strong church, strongly connected, than be comfortable now, and in 20 years, the church have spiritual osteoporosis, right? And I think there's so many barriers to why we don't do that, why we don't get into each other's lives. I mean, we could sit here all day and list things that keep people from being in each other's lives.
Yeah. The excuses are infinite.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And some of them, maybe even many of them, are based on real experiences. And I mean, it's kind of like the old adage, stereotypes are stereotypes for a reason. There's some level of truth in them. Okay. So similarly, we can throw out all sorts of excuses for not getting into each other's lives. And yeah, there's going to be some elements of truth to them. Oh, life is so busy. Yeah. Well, yeah, life is busy. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Man, it just gets busier and busier and busier. That's true. Then the question is, so what? Yeah. Or I just feel like everybody else is so much better than me. Well, yeah, that one's probably doesn't have any truth to it. Yeah. And anyone that acts like they're perfect, let me put it this way. When I act like I'm perfect, it's because I'm hiding something.
Yeah.
Don't trust a perfect person. Don't trust a song that's flawless. So but then we feel like we have to button up and be perfect. And I'm hearing the protestations now. Well, we are supposed to be good. Yes. Yeah, we are. We should be trying our absolute best to walk in the light of Christ and to walk in his image and to become more like him. That's part of the Ephesians 4 thing too, that individually we're growing up into the maturity of Christ, and that matures the body. So yeah, we should be pursuing that, but we can't act like we've gotten there.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Because when we do, we're discouraging Christians who are less mature than us. We're lying to ourselves, and we're just putting on we're putting on a farce, and that's going to drive more wedges. So anyway, I went on a rant there.
I like how we had.
Great.
Do you mind if I have a couple of things?
Yeah.
I do like the fact that we mentioned some of the relationships in the Bible, and we said it was low-hanging fruit. I was doing a study specifically on generation, and we know Moses and Joshua. We know a lot of the stories of the children of Israel, but something struck me most recently as I was studying the same thing. In John chapter 8, which is the story of Jesus and the woman caught in adultery.
Yeah.
And there's a crowd that forms, and they've caught this woman red-handed in adultery. And the context is kind of that they've set her up, but that they're testing Jesus, and they're saying, hey, the law says that we got to kill her. What do you say? And Jesus goes down to the ground, and he starts writing words in the dirt. And then they press him again, and he makes the great statement, hey, who's without sin, cast the first stone. And then this struck me. After he says this, it says, starting with the oldest, they began to disperse.
Right.
And that struck me as, wow, it actually specifically mentions in that narrative that the oldest started leading the way.
Right.
And so whenever you were saying earlier that it really, the impetus of action
right,
really should lie on the older and wiser.
Yeah.
They should know that it needs to come from them, because they're intimidating. Like, to go and talk to someone who has been on the earth for 50, 60, 70, 80, 90 years,
right,
that isn't comfortable for someone who still refuses to floss or something, like trying to get random lessons that mom and dad are trying to teach.
Yeah.
And so when it comes to a mature person leading the way, showing what it means to be like Christ, I think that makes all the difference.
Yeah. So there's a specific application of that maybe this is just like a soapbox of mine because I've seen it so many times, but the intergenerational rifts, I mean, how many generations are there alive right now? It depends on how you want to define them, right? So you think about like the high schooler. Well, how the high schooler thinks about the 70 and 80-year-old is going to, at least in part, be influenced and defined by how their parents, who are probably in their 40s, think about the 70 and the 80-year-old, right?
Yeah.
So we can actually perpetuate the generational rifts if we as parents are leading our children to think negatively about older generations. I mean, what do we think we're setting them up for, right? Whereas if we can, so I see it as one of these things where the impetus for connection or the burden of connection, I do think lies with the older generation to the younger generation. But if, for instance, if someone's listening to this podcast right now and they're the young people, my encouragement is don't wait. You make the connection, right? If you can. But if you're listening to this podcast and you're in the middle, right? You've got kids and you want them to be connected to older, wiser people, step in and help them make that connection. Help them respect what can happen from that connection and appreciate what can happen from that connection. You can be the mediator through which older and younger become connected. And I think that's really valuable. So basically what I'm saying is no matter where we are in life, we have action that we can and should take in order to bridge these intergenerational divides.
That's great. Well, I think it kind of leads to our closing question, which is the question we talked about before, which was, look, podcast is called The Extra Mile. Jesus said, go the extra mile. How would you encourage someone to go the extra mile?
Oh, man. On the 6-hour drive here today, I knew this question was coming, and
good.
I wrestled with it because I think it's one of those things that can be so contextually dependent. I don't want to overcomplicate things, but what going the extra mile looks like depends on what the context is, right? I mean, the original context of the teaching would probably, if we understand history correctly, probably has to do with, excuse me, with the idea of someone being pressed into service, carrying a burden for a mile. And then Jesus' teaching is, you've been forced to do this. Now go even further of your own will. So when I was thinking about that, I was trying to think, okay, well, in the context of this men's conference or in the context of intergenerational relationships, what does it look like to go beyond what you're forced to do, beyond what you're compelled to do? And I think that that's going to end up being a really personal question. But I guess the simple answer, the baseline answer is take the first step. Because relationships are not built passively. Whether that's between peers of people generally the same age or intergenerationally. They aren't built passively. They're built through intentional, shared experience, through conversation, through effort. No relationship is effortless. So when it comes to going the extra mile, we are, if let's put it in this context, if we're all worshiping as part of a local church, we're not compelled to sit in a pew and be together, but some people would view it that way. Okay, what's going the extra mile? Going the extra mile is not only being here, but looking around with fresh eyes, seeing the people around you, and saying, I am pursuing a relationship with that person, and I will take the first step. I'll be the one. Regardless of who should be, I'll be the one.
Yeah. That's really right. I think, especially in the historical context, we don't think about the possible relationship that could have created when they're going the extra mile.
That's true.
Yeah. And that what you're saying there is like, look, that creates actually a relationship. Deeper than 1 mile creates a relationship 2 miles, and maybe we should go further and further. Yeah, that's really good. Well, with that, like always, Go so. If you want to know more about the Bible or you have any questions, our email is in the description below. You can DM us. We'd love to hear from you. And if you're looking for a church family or you're in the Lubbock area, we invite you to come visit and hang out with us in Milwaukee. We love for you to find a church who practices the love of Christ.